Recorded
We're
live
back.
in front of a live Benny audience.
Yeah, we got a live studio audience this time.
Now I can actually look at the
So-
camera. I don't have to avoid that the entire time. Hello, Benny. He can't actually hear us, so it'll be entirely
Yeah,
up to
it's
his
really weird.
what he does.
He'll just be. Oh, there he goes.
Okay, bye. Anyway,
All right. Well,
welcome back to the
today
Inspect Director Show.
welcome back. We are here for another in-game review. We are in a game, and we are reviewing
Therefore,
Pokemon
in-game review.
Sword and Shield.
Yes. Well, we're reviewing parts of it. This is mostly just us ranting about the idea.
We're just kind of this is less of a review and more of just us talking about it. So, I want to start off with the fact that this is a $60 game. It's available on the Nintendo Switch, both physical copy and downloadable on the store. You can get a double pack of the two games for no discount price on either game.
You can get one
great.
for $60,
it's super
or
cool.
you get two for $120.
I don't think there's been another $60 Pokemon game, has there? Unless Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were $60.
They've had a few console games. I don't know if they were full priced. I remember there was Pokemon XD and Pokemon Coliseum. I don't know how those. Well, I was a little kid when they came out, so I didn't buy them new.
I'm talking about like the mainline JRPG style.
There's
Pokemon.
never been a $60. There's never been a $60 mainline game. I don't think.
Was
I
Pokemon
believe,
Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were those $40?
No, actually that was $60 too.
So, okay, this is the second $60 Pokemon game where I felt like it was the least gameplay in any of the Pokemon games. I played the entire game and felt like there was something missing. I played the story and kind of enjoyed it. I thought there were a lot of things that were really cool. They built up to that final battle. When I actually was doing that final battle with the champion, I actually was like, okay, this feels like I feel the pomp and circumstance of it. And then I did that, and I was like, what the fuck now? And that is my biggest problem with this game. Here comes our audience back.
I thought the same thing, except that my whole thing with Pokemon is that I never really play post-game anyway. I'm mostly in it for the main campaign.
Right. My biggest thing was just that I never lost. I literally never lost a single battle the entire time.
Oh, I did a few times, but it's because I did the opposite of grinding. I skipped trainers. So I had an under-level team, so I deserved it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I played the way I normally play Pokemon, which is I keep battling with everyone, and the fact that everyone gets the same amount of XP streamlines it a little bit, or not the same amount, but everyone gets some if you battle. It streamlines it a bit, yes. But it also makes it a little too easy to grind up your levels.
I don't think it was it optional in this game? It was optional in the previous games, I think.
I think it was an optional thing, but it's one of those things where it's like it's one of those things where, you know, it's optional, yeah, but like I don't know. I don't know. I feel, and then like I said before, I felt like it was missing content, right? Then what comes out a couple months later?
Oh, yeah.
But paid DLC.
Here comes the main event.
Is the moment I undownloaded this game forever from my Switch. I just had enough. I it was just too much. I paid $60 for this Pokemon game, which is outrageous for a Pokemon game, but it is a lot more developed than a Pixel one. I'll give you that. From the looks and stuff and the engine.
They ain't been Pixel for a while, buddy. That's not an excuse.
No, it's just I felt cheated right from the beginning, because not only is there a severely cut down number of Pokemon, which I kind of get from one's viewpoint, but then after feeling cheated out of like not enough gameplay from a $60 game, they turn around and try to make me pay for more content, and that's just not okay, especially from a game like Pokemon.
Okay. On that front, I agree with you, but I also don't agree with you. Let me explain. I do agree with you that $60 is way too much for the game, the base game that we got. Past game, correct my math here. Past game was $40. This game is $60. That means that this game should logically be 33% more game, right? Because
it's not.
Yeah, it's not 33% more game. In fact, this is a 30-minute campaign, or 30-hour campaign, not 30-minute. I
Yeah.
don't think even Pokemon could stoop that low. But this is a 30-hour campaign, and I'm not a fast gamer. I'm a very slow gamer. So for me to beat the game in 30 hours, that's kind of sad. But I can kind of understand that. My general golden rule of video games is that generally you want I think generally you want $1 an hour, I think, is a good measure of a good game. Is that you should have 60 hours worth of good content to justify a $60 price tag. The exception being if you're having an absolute blast, then you can cut that in half. And if I was absolutely having an absolute blast with this game, then I would think it justifies $60. And I did have a lot of fun with it. I think it was a $50 game, but I don't think it was a $60 game. It was almost worth it, but it wasn't quite, which is kind of sad. This is the kind of game where even if it wasn't pound for pound very worth it, I think it did have some really amazing moments, and this was a game that I binged the hell out of because I really enjoyed it.
Right, yeah. While I was playing it, it was the only game I kind of wanted to play for a while because it's Pokemon. But the thing that I always look forward to every time I play Pokemon is after I beat the Elite Four, the whole pomp and circumstance of going around the island, going around and trying to find all these legendary Pokemon that are now on the loose, basically.
I do see the appeal of that. However, I will interject one way to say that that is where our experience of Pokemon differs. I'm much more about the main campaign. I usually put the game down after I've beat it. Now go on.
And there wasn't that in this game. There were 3 legendaries in this game, and they're all the storyline legendaries.
Yes,
and that's
that
really
is true.
that sucks. And another, and you're talking about the story. The story was okay, but it really was missing a Team Rocket, so to speak.
Yeah, Team Yell was very weak, and
Team Yell was so weak because I was like, okay, I don't like their design very much, and anyways. And then they don't even really become evil. Like, they very quickly just kind of turn around and are on your side now.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what the fuck? And it doesn't even have to be like a Team Rocket. Like, I remember in Sun and Moon, it was like this weird organization sort of thing.
They were thugs.
From what I remember, right?
The Aether Foundation,
well, there were the
but
thugs,
also,
right? Yeah, there's the Team Skullgrunts, but then, yeah.
Team Skull was, I would say Team Skull was more interesting. I think
Team Skull was 100% more interesting.
Team Yell was kind of like a less interesting Team Skull.
Yeah.
Team Skull was okay to be small scale because for the small scale they had that made them more personal, they were more fun to interact with.
Yeah.
But Team Yell didn't really have the appeal to it.
Yeah, like with Team Skull, you kind of laughed at them because they were like trying to,
They were funny. Team Yell was just kind of annoying.
Yeah, they're annoying, really, and that's something to laugh at. But Team Yell was just kind of boring.
Team Yell did have one moment where they're screaming at everyone to stay quiet so that the snake can, do its snake things in peace. Other than that, they didn't have a lot of great moments.
Yeah, and I don't know, there just didn't feel to be very much adversary in this game. And then one thing that they advertised so much was like that big field area, which was a neat idea in theory, but I don't think they pulled it off great.
I think it was that felt like a beta test rather than a
full feature.
Really,
it felt like a test. It didn't feel,
they should have spent more time on that, I feel.
Right, it felt like they kind of put it in, because they wanted to draw connections to like Breath of the Wild, and they wanted people to look at it and be like, "Wow, look at that vast green meadow with that castle there. That reminds me of Breath of the Wild. That looks like, it just..."
Can I say there's one thing that I forgot to say about Animal Crossing? Very quick.
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild did everything super crisp and fast. You can navigate the menus in a split second. It was amazing. Why doesn't Animal Crossing do that? Anyway, back to Pokemon. Yes, they had a great idea of having a big open world, but they kind of half-assed it. You'll notice that with Nintendo, that they kind of when they do new things, they half-ass it the first time around.
It's not, it's so odd, and I do like the whole Pokemon being physical things that you can run into, right? I mean, there are arguments against that where it makes it look goofy, but I don't know. I like it. I think
I think I'm okay with it being goofy. I'm okay with
Yeah,
flying.
yeah.
I'm okay with flying Gyarados and the Wingles that kind of pivot.
Right.
I
I
think it's
mean,
fine because
you've
it's
seen it.
Pokemon. We
You
don't
saw
really treat it.
you saw something similar in older games where you could have them follow you around, right?
That was a bouncing sprite. Yeah, we didn't question
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and even I don't know.
But
I liked a lot of things about it, but the direction they ended up taking it, especially trying to market heavily the DLC that you have to pay for, just really turned me off of this game.
oh yeah,
And
I'll get to the DLC in a second. But I will say that with the wild area, if they wanted to do the wild area, they should have gone balls deep and made the entire game in
oh
that
yeah,
format.
some
They
or just
they
more than just one wild area like that. It was weird that it was just
I think
kind
that
of thrown.
they should if they're gonna do that, they should really the only way to really make sure that they put all their all into it is to make the entire game in that format because that forces them to make it good, right?
Yeah, yeah, I know what you're saying. I mean, should have been more of like routes getting you from the giant expanse to the next, from one giant expanse to the next one, and then maybe it puts you in a town, and there should have been more of that throughout the entire game. I felt like it felt
Yeah, it
kind of
felt completely optional. When I played through the
yeah,
game, I'll admit it, I mostly skipped the wild area.
yeah. I mean,
There wasn't
it
much
just
of a reason for
there
me to do
wasn't
stuff there.
too much exciting, and then as much as I like the idea of the whole raid battles where you can go in with your friends, it's an interesting idea. It gives something more PvE, than
Yeah, I like that
Pokemon's
idea. I
really ever
didn't do much
had
of it
for
because I wasn't
multiplayer.
super interested.
Hmm.
That's
What?
all I had to say about that.
What?
Oh, I didn't do much of it because I wasn't particularly interested in it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I love the idea of PvE Pokemon. I think
But
it's
the
definitely
thing,
something we should try to incorporate again, maybe in a slightly more interesting way.
yeah,
Also, side
it
tangent of
just,
that tangent is that Gigantamax Pokemon, they should just always
yeah,
be able to do that. We shouldn't have to catch a new Pokemon to do that.
yeah.
One of the
That
gym
and
leaders pulled a
just
Gigantamax. They caught a new turtle to do that.
in general, the Gigantamax thing, I'm not a big fan of. It's
I like Dynamax.
kind of
I really enjoyed Dynamax. And
well, wait. Well, wait. Is Dynamaxing? It's just making them bigger, right?
yeah, here's my
I
defense.
did not like that.
Here's my defense of
But
Dynamax before we discuss DLC.
yeah,
Dynamax, I think, is that it actually had a benefit. Well, first of all, the benefit of Dynamax is that not only was it tons of fun to look at, but also any Pokemon on your team could do it. You did not need a special item for each individual Pokemon in order for them to
right.
engage in the transformation. So any potential team member could instantly become your MVP for a gym fight. And
Yeah,
here's the thing with the Mega Evolution, they're limited, but in a different way, in that they're limited in that, okay, you gotta find the item. Once you have the item, you can Mega Evolve always. With Dynamax, you can only Dynamax if your opponent can Dynamax. And I think that makes it more scarce, which makes it more... It's a much more of a big deal when it finally happens.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. It did make it. It made gym battles more interesting, right? It's interesting.
They made gym battles very hype.
It's interesting from a game mechanic, but all that being said, it looked clunky.
I don't
It
think
looked
that looked
kind of
like clunky.
in my opinion, it looked doofy. Just to blow them up and have them be really big, and then they're just like, it kind of blows more into proportion how that a lot of these Pokemon designs aren't really meant to be 3D designs.
I didn't really see that. Could you give an example?
Like Butterfree, for example, looks ridiculous in when it's the big sport, the giant 3D model looks kind of not good.
I never had a Butterfree, so I wouldn't have experience in that. But in
It's
theory,
just-
it should probably be fine.
I don't know. And again, it was fun to do, but I feel like they should have done it better. Like in the way it looked, like I feel like they should have made everything if they were gonna do that, they should have really dove in deep and have everything look a little different when it's a big version of itself. You know what I mean?
They should have, yeah. I do agree that they should have had some. They should have had each Pokemon transform slightly. I don't like Gigantamax because it's limited between different Pokemon. Like only some Pokemon can Gigantamax, and if you want a Gigantamax, you have to catch a new Pokemon,
Right,
even
yeah,
if
you
you
have
have
to
that
catch the
Pokemon
Gigantic-
previously. That's stupid. That's eugenics. I don't like that. But more to the point, I think what they should have gone halfway. That is something they should have half-assed. What they should have done is have every Pokemon transform very slightly upon Dynamax. They should have had Butterfree's proportions adjusted slightly. Maybe give it even larger wings than it has of a body.
It should have been some
Make
mixture
Charizard
between.
slightly on fire.
It should have been some mixture between Dynamaxing and the Super Evolution thing from previous games.
Well, that's what Gigantamax was. They tried to have their cake and eat it too.
Right,
They made it
yeah,
big and
that's
they
what
made
it
it
was.
mega. And I don't think
But
they
it
needed to make
should've-
it mega.
It should have been like that with every Pokemon. Maybe not everyone has to be as drastic of a change as, the Gigantamax one. But that's the good thing about that is they can change it as much as they want. Like it was kind of like the Alolan Pokemon, how there were different ones, and it was fun to like change up the style a little bit of old Pokemon that you've seen before. Like I really like the Alolan Executor. It's funny. It's great.
Yeah, in a perfect world, I would say that the best way to implement Dynamax would have been to just make it one transformation so that everyone can do a Dynamax, and everyone's Dynamax looks slightly different from what their Pokemon normally looks like at normal size, but none of them are like a massive transformation that make them look like a completely different Pokemon.
Yeah.
So give everyone a Gigantamax and make them look significantly less dramatically changed.
I feel like that would have made it a little less gimmicky feeling to me. Because
Yeah.
when it was introduced, I was way more against it. Then I played it, and I was like, this is a fun mechanic. This is fun to do. But what I'm
Definitely-
seeing with my eyeballs is not enjoyable.
From a character design standpoint, Mega Evolution is definitely a more interesting idea. However, the way Mega Evolution was implemented is, well, you could Mega Evolve your Pokemon, or you could not, and there's no reason not to Mega Evolve your Pokemon. So every fight against every Caterpie, I'd be like, might as well Mega Evolve. Might as
And it was
well.
just an extra,
It's just
step,
an extra
basically.
thing you do in every battle. They should have made it so that you can only Mega Evolve if your opponent can Mega Evolve, which is what they did in this game. And I do also like the idea that all Dynamax does is change your attacks a bit, and then increase your HP. Dynamax doesn't actually make your Pokemon stronger, by the way.
Well, there's the Dynamax moves, which brings me to something else.
Those are higher attack moves, but they still use your regular attacking stats.
Right, yeah, and they also it shoehorns all of the attacks into there's 3 general leaf-based attacks.
Oh, yeah,
it
actually,
kind of
I think there's only
makes
one.
them all, and that was
one
weird.
dumb thing. I don't think they should have done that. I think they could have just done the same leaf animation with everything, but still keep the attack's properties.
yeah.
Maybe increase the base power by 20.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I necessarily have a better solution, but it is stuff like that made it feel like it was kind of just thrown in to be like, oh look, this is something different.
Yeah, that does kind of make it look more gimmicky.
Yeah.
And I will say Dynamax, it's a gimmick, but it's a fun gimmick. It's a gimmick that
It is, yeah, it's
it
more
was
fun than some of the other gimmicks they've tried to put in
Dynamax
past
was an
games.
appropriately placed gimmick. If Dynamax was something you could always do, then it would get very old very fast. But you only did one Dynamax for every gym battle and some very rare battles besides that. So maybe 10 or 12 Dynamaxes per playthrough.
Yeah, and I like that it made it so it changed up the how it it made gym battles into more of an event, right? Because you could Dynamax.
It made gym
But
battles
I also would
interesting
argue that it made gym battles too easy.
I don't
Because I kind of got the strategy for Dynamaxing in those battles pretty early. You just have to make sure that it's kind of similar to how old Pokemon games are. You're going into the water gym, so make sure your leaf Pokemon is leveled up properly. But do that with the Pokemon you're going to Dynamax, and then don't Dynamax until after they have Dynamaxed.
Yeah, if you want to play like a bitch.
It was just
I always
What do you mean
Dynamax with
play
my
like a
opponent
bitch?
Dynamax.
That's how you play like a winner.
Yeah, it's just, if you just want to play like an
Because
utter coward.
it was way too easy to just once they Dynamaxed, take it down, and then take down all of their other Pokemon.
Yeah, I
with
did
one
that
Dynamax
once.
Pokemon.
I won't pretend like I didn't do that once. But in general, if you want to play like a gentleman, then you will Dynamax when your opponent does. That makes things
I'm
more
just playing,
theatrical. Pokemon
playing
is
the
not
game
a
the
hard
way they
game.
gave
You
it
do
to
not
me.
need to. You do not need to optimize it.
Well, let's get to the final kick in the groin for this game, which is what made me delete the game from my
Yes,
console and denounce Pokemon for the
It's
next
time to make
foreseeable
my
while.
case in defense of Pokemon DLC.
The worst thing they ever did to Pokemon.
I've come to make the case that these money grubbing, greedy practices have been a Pokemon staple since the very beginning. Observe.
Yes,
Exhibit
1,000
A.
times yes.
Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue. Oh no, you can't catch all the Pokemon unless you have both games, or your friend buys an extra copy of the game. That is true, but that's not
Very
where
true.
it ends. Generation 2. There is Pokemon Gold and Pokemon Silver. But wait, ladies and gentlemen, a few years later, or maybe even months later, do you know what they did? They released a third, fully priced Pokemon game. They called it Pokemon Crystal. And do you know what they did? They said that, hey, in order to get all of these few new features, you buy a new copy of Pokemon.
Yep.
I'm here to tell you that DLC is actually an upgrade from this practice of releasing entirely new Pokemon games to add a handful of features. Pokemon Platinum is the first of these. My first game was Pokemon Emerald, so I actually jumped in on one of these third edition games. But by Pokemon Platinum, I realized I will have to buy another fully priced game to get an expansion of this game that I've already played in the form of Pokemon Pearl. I've come to say that DLC is more ethical than a third Pokemon game, such as Pokemon Gun or Pokemon Spear, or whatever you would call it, because you don't have to pay full price for it, and you can amend it to your current save file.
See, I would disagree with you there because there's a DLC for each of the Sword and Shield games. So not only do you have to either buy Sword or Shield, then you have to decide if you want to get the other games so you can get all the Pokemon. And then once you do that, not only do you have to decide whether you want to get the DLC to get all of that content, you also have to decide whether you want to get the other DLC for that second game, which is much more of a money suck in my opinion.
Mathematically, that's not correct at all. Because the initial dilemma that you listed of choosing to get Sword or Shield, that is a choice that we've had since the very beginning of this series. And all we have to do is calculate the cost of this DLC versus the cost of another Pokemon game, which would presumably also be $60. I don't actually know the price of the DLC, but if the DLC...
I think it's $30.
If the DLC is less than $60, all the DLC combined is less than $60, then this is more beneficial to us as the consumer. However, if the DLC costs $60 or more, then yes, you are correct that it is more of a scummy, money-grubbing process. But what do the numbers say?
The expansion pass is $30.
The entire expansion pass or just one of them?
Oh, you know what? It looks like it's hold on. It's hard. I can't see on my Switch, so I have to look it up online.
Yeah, okay. Take 5.
Let's
look it up.
Give me a minute. Well, it looks like there's 2 DLCs, and you get them both for expansion pass.
I see.
$30, I guess.
I rest my case.
That's what it looks like. And I might even be wrong about the fact that you need 2 separate DLCs, but I can't quite tell.
I believe the DLCs are I don't know if they're sold separately.
There might be
But I'm
one
counting them
DLC
both as
expansion
one
pass.
unit that is replacing the third version.
Yeah, but I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see in the future whether they keep adding them.
If they release a third version after this DLC, then my whole point goes up in flames, and I will agree with you that that's completely ridiculous. But if this DLC has replaced the third version, then we are basically getting the third version for half off.
See, my argument against it being the third version is that usually they wait a year or so for the third version to come out, but in this case, it's only been a couple months.
Has it? I haven't done the math on that.
Yeah,
when was it released versus when was the original game released?
It was released 2019. Here, let's see.
That's an entire year.
Well, I think it was released later 2019, wasn't it?
I guess it all boils down to, were they developing the DLC while they were developing the base game?
Yeah,
if they were, that's scummy.
If it was stuff that they just left out of the game in order to make it a DLC, then that is much worse.
However, if they were developing Platinum's features while they were still working on Diamond and Pearl, then they have not become any more scummy than they already were.
So one of them releasing June 2020.
Oh, I see. So they're not released yet.
Yeah, and then the other one's releasing fall 2020. But you can pay them for the expansion pass right now.
Much like you can pre-order Pokemon Platinum.
Yeah.
When was the original Shield released?
When did the original game come out? Sword release date. It came out on November 15th, 2019.
So by the time the second DLC comes out and this quote-unquote, what I call the third version is complete, then 1 year will have passed, and they will have...
No, it came out November 2019. The next one's coming out June.
That will be half of it, yes. The other half will be in late fall, right?
Yeah. So... slowly over the span of a year, right? But
yeah, it would be as if they gave you Pokemon Platinum Part 1 and Pokemon Platinum Part 2.
Right, yeah, I guess. I don't know. The thing that it all boils down to for me is when I played Pokemon Diamond, I felt like it was a complete game. I just kept playing it and playing it. After I finished the game, I kept playing it and playing it. And then, a new game comes out and it's like a little twist on it. I can have the choice to play that or not, right? With this game, I finished the game and felt like there wasn't enough.
You do have a valid point there that the original game was lacking content.
Which drives me instinctively to want to get the DLC. But that's what pisses me off so much about it, and the reason I'm not going to buy the DLC or play this game anymore, in fact, is because it felt like they skimped out to make us want to buy more.
Yeah, it does point in the direction that rather than creating a third version, what they've done is they've created enough content to fill out a $60 game. However, they have spread it out over, and that's probably what you're getting at.
Multiple releases.
They spread it out, and I believe that could either be due to greedy malice, or it could be simply because this is the first home console version of the game, and usually when they move to a new medium, things get a little rough. Pokemon is Game Freak is very bad at creating a Pokemon game on a new system, so it's always a little rough. Diamond and Pearl were rough compared to, say, Black and White, and the first 3DS games were more rough around the edges than the later 3DS games. So it might be possible that they were simply really, really struggling with the Switch hardware, so they could not possibly make the deadline while having a complete game, and so they instead spent the next year of development time coming up with DLC.
Wouldn't that first game have been Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee? I mean, because you can already see how they implemented...
Never mind.
They implemented some of the things from that game into this newer game.
Felt like
you can see that.
That was their training mode.
Yeah, that was definitely their training mode.
One thing, though, is that they didn't have the wild area in those games, so they were going in blind with that anyway.
Right, the Dynamaxing and all that this is the first time that's being implemented. But a lot of the game structure from this comes from the training wheels of Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which are even more testing out the boundaries because it's literally just an older game. It's the original Pokemon game, just like remastered, basically. And then, put with these new mechanic features.
Yeah. It's kind of like how I think they tested out a Gen 1 remake when they first tried the Game Boy Advance before they even started on Ruby and Sapphire. And you could hear some Gen 1 music in those games.
Or
in the game files, it's hidden.
Yeah.
Before they had Fire Red and Leaf Green, they used Kanto as a testing ground for the GBA.
Yeah, and that's I mean, that's the version. That's the first version of Pokemon I even played. I didn't know there was a Pokemon before that for a long time.
All right. Well, you do have a point that they had plenty of time to. I rescind my point that they didn't have enough time to just for the Switch hardware. I think it's just that Game Freak is kind of being a little lazy bitch, and that they they did everything they could to flesh out these 30 hours. They didn't think to just make it more than 30 hours.
Right. And I feel like they could have done with what an Animal Crossing did, which is they held the game off a year so that they didn't have to rush to put the game out and force their workers to work all the time and rush and,
Yeah, Game Freak has a serious problem with, like, they have to have a game every year.
Well, it's because of Pokemon fans, is my guess. Is because
hell rowdy. They've written themselves into a corner here. They made a game every year, so now they're expected to make a game every year. So now they're no longer making good games.
Yep, it's the Call of Duty narrative right there for you.
I thought Call of Duty kind of slowed that down, though. I don't know. I've never played a Call of Duty before.
I think Call of Duty still makes a game every year.
Oh, interesting.
Feel like it, at least. I mean, they're making another Modern Warfare. Like, I feel like they've been coming out with Modern Warfare games for the past 3 years now. Like, they've relaunched Modern Warfare for the past 3 years now, is what it feels like.
Is there? You were
because there was like a Modern Warfare remake, and then there was new Modern Warfare, and now they're doing another new Modern Warfare. It's just like, Jesus Christ. I don't.
Man, I'm so behind on first-person shooters. I'm not a shooter fan.
Yeah, I haven't played any of them. It's just what I see advertised all the fucking time.
Wow. I think.
That being said, next we're gonna review the new Call of Duty game. Oh my god!
No, we're not. We're not
gonna
do that.
It's gonna be so epic. It's gonna be so epic.
There's no fucking way I'm doing that. I'm out. Bye.
Bye, John.
Fuck you.
John.
Bye, Benny.
You know what? I guess I'll review it by myself.